Hi everyone! Today we're going to make a sambar. A sambar is a mixed vegetable and lentil stew made the Indian way. Let's have a look at the ingredients. You'll need about 8 to 10 fresh curry leaves, 3 to 4 pieces of dried Kashmiri chilies, which are mild red chilies, a mild red chili powder. We're going to use about half a teaspoon's worth, about half a teaspoon of black mustard seeds. We're going to use a store-bought sambar masala powder for this recipe. While it can be made at home, this is one recipe where I choose to go store-bought. Nothing beats a packet like this. You can pick these up at any Indian grocery store. You get the Everest brand, you get the MDH brand. I've used both and they're both great. For the lentils, we're going to use toor dal or pigeon peas, again available at any Indian store. Moving on to the veggies. You can use an assortment of vegetables here. You can stick with what you have on hand. What I've used is a sweet potato, some carrots, eggplant. I've grown these little babies in a little container in the backyard. I've also used some okra or bhindi, also known as ladyfingers. Now, you can choose to use these or leave them out. They're not usually put in a traditional sambar, but I love how they taste in a curry like this. I also use drumsticks. These are the fruit of the moringa tree. You get the fresh variant as well. I managed to get my hands on a bag of frozen pieces this time on my visit to the Indian store, so I just picked them up because it's a little hard for me to find the fresh variety, but if you can find fresh drumsticks, please use the fresh drumsticks. They taste so much better. They're more vibrant green than what you see here, but hey, if you can't find the fresh ones, the frozen ones work just as well. The first thing you're going to do is deal with the lentils. This is 1 cup of the toor dal that I just showed you. We're going to start by just gently rinsing them under cold running water. I just swirl them around with my fingers and that gets rid of any of the impurities that the lentils might have on them. Simply drain that water off and I repeat this process a couple of times. You will notice that every time you do this, the water tends to be a little clearer, a little less murky than it was the previous time. So 2 to 3 times should do just fine. Now the next thing you're going to do is make sure that the lentils are covered, completely covered and submerged in fresh cold water. And you're going to set this aside for about 10 minutes or so. Now I normally move on and prep the rest of the ingredients for the sambar while the dal is soaking. It doesn't need very long to soak. So go on, proceed and cut the rest of your vegetables that you'll be using for the stew. When you're cutting the vegetables, make sure that you're keeping them in similar sized pieces so that they all cook through together. Otherwise, you will find that the smaller pieces cook to a mush, the bigger ones are undercooked, and no one really wants that in a curry. You want to make sure that they're all cooked relatively uniformly. Now to cook my lentils, I'm using my WMF stovetop pressure cooker. If you don't have one, you can just cook it in a pot on the stove till they're really tender, almost mushy. But the pressure cooker makes it a breeze. It's done in less than 5 minutes flat. So I've drained the lentils and run them through fresh running water one last time, drain that off as well. I'm going to now tip these into that pressure cooker and we're going to get started with the cooking process of the sambar. To the 1 cup of soaked lentils, I've added about 2 cups of, again, cold fresh water and 1 teaspoon of salt. You can add salt to taste over here. So if you're watching your salt intake, simply cut down or omit it. Now seal the pressure cooker shut and cook the lentils till they're tender. Follow your manufacturer's instructions. I simply take it up to full pressure and take it off the heat. Moving on to your vegetables. This is a fairly large quantity of vegetables for the amount of sambar that we're going to be making, but I really love for my sambar to be loaded with pieces of vegetable. You can choose to use smaller quantities of vegetables or switch up the quantities of each, whatever suits you better. You're going to just place all the pieces of vegetables into a pot large enough to hold them and cover them with hot water. I just use water from a recently boiled kettle. What this does is it starts cooking the vegetables off straight away, and you don't have to wait for the water to come to a boil to get the cooking process started. Now we're going to season the pot. About half a teaspoon's worth of salt should be perfect. Stir that around gently and place it on medium heat for about, again, 8 to 10 minutes or until the vegetables are cooked through. Once that's done, take it off the heat and set it aside. Now, something that I forgot to show you in the original clip of ingredients is some tamarind. I use about the size of a small walnut. This is your main souring agent for this dish. You could choose to use tamarind pulp or tamarind extract if you've got that. I just buy a block of seedless tamarind from the store, and I use little pieces like this to serve my curries or for any recipe that calls for it. Now, the easiest way to extract pulp from a big knob of tamarind like this is to cover it with some warm water. I already had a kettle of water going to boil my vegetables, so I just used some from that same kettle, just enough to cover the tamarind. Now you set it aside, let the hot water do its thing, and we'll come back to that. By this time, your dal or your lentils should have cooked. Once the pressure dies down in the cooker, carefully open it, and this is what you should be left with. If your dal isn't as tender as this, close the cooker and cook it off for a little while. Now for the last stage in the cooking process. Place a large pan on medium heat and add about a tablespoon's worth of cooking oil. I use olive oil for most of my cooking, so that's what I've used here. Now once your oil has heated up, add in the mustard seeds. Here I use about half a teaspoon's worth of mustard seeds. I want to stand back. Once the mustard seeds have started to sputter, add in your curry leaves and the dried Kashmiri red chillies or any other mild red chili. This is not going to add heat or spice, it's just going to flavor the oil that we're using to cook the rest of the sambar. Now give this a few seconds to heat through and release all the aromas. Once that's happened, add in the lentils that were previously boiled. You need to lower the heat when you're doing this because, again, like you can see, it tends to spit a little and you don't want to splash any of the lentils onto yourself. To the pot, you're going to add 1 heaped tablespoon of the sambar masala. This is a mild but extremely complex combination of flavors and simply makes the curry. It's worthwhile having a box of this on hand. Now stir that through to make sure everything has mixed well. At this stage, I choose to add a little bit of Kashmiri chili powder. Again, a very mild but flavorsome version of red chili powder. You can use any other mild variant that you have. While it doesn't make the curry too spicy, you can choose to leave it out if you're not as adventurous with your spice levels. Now loosen the gravy up with about a cup's worth of vegetable stock, the water that you'd use to boil the veggies in. Stir that through to make sure that all the lentils have blended well with the recent addition of vegetable stock. Now I'll leave this for about, say, 30 seconds to heat through all over again, and when everything has warmed through, I'm going to finally add all the boiled vegetables. Now you want to make sure that your vegetables are done just to the stage before they're fork tender, because there is a small amount of cooking that will continue to happen once it's added to the pot of lentils. Gently stir them around, make sure that all that gravy has mixed through, and you're going to simmer this for a couple of minutes. Check for seasoning, add more salt if you need at this stage. We're going to move on to that bowl of tamarind that we had left steeping in hot water. This is when we're going to add the tamarind extract to the pot. Now to make the extract, all you're going to do is just press the tamarind through between your fingers, just like how I'm doing right now. You just want to make sure that all the goodness of the tamarind has mixed in with the water, and you're going to pass that through a little sieve into your pot of sambar. Again, add sourness to taste. I know for a fact that I like my sambar slightly on the tangy side, so I've used the whole lot from the bowl, but feel free to use as much or as little as you'd like. Once you've added that to the pot, you're gently going to stir everything around again and let it simmer for a couple of minutes for one last time. You can check for sourness at this stage, and if you feel the need to add more, you can add some more of the tamarind extract. And there you have it. Sambar is ready to be served. It goes really well with boiled rice, idlis, dosas, or even some crusty bread. So folks, if you enjoyed this recipe, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for all our upcoming videos, and don't forget to share these videos with family and friends that you think will enjoy learning to cook Indian food too. See you soon. Bye-bye.